Ben, thank you very much for being here, sir.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think the last time you was here was probably, 10 months or so. You and Paisley came up for a meeting about stuff, and that seems like years ago now.
Mate, that year has gone so fast.
Yeah,
that was like literally a year ago, I think.
Yeah.
Because
when you were last here, this was a different looking room, wasn't it?
Well, completely, yeah. There's some nice brickery going on now.
Yeah,
so
we don't need to mention who's done it. We know who's going to get the compliments.
Yeah, nice.
Turns out that you had a bit of a rocky journey in here to Redditch, didn't you, from Derby?
I did have a rocky journey into Redditch.
Come on, let's start off the podcast with a lovely story time from Ben.
So I was in Sainsbury's, and basically yesterday I went and bought a belt from TK Maxx, and the alarm didn't go off when I left TK Maxx. So I walk into Sainsbury's today, and basically the alarm goes off while I'm walking out with my meal deal, thinking nothing of it. I thought it was this lady next to me. This guy tussles me back, right? And he was like, show me what you've got. He thought I'd nicked something. He thought I'd put something in my pocket. I hadn't, obviously. Yeah. Turns out, basically, after he's like pretty much strip searched me down, he's found this tag that's on my belt from yesterday at TK Maxx. And,
the security tag?
The security tag is on my belt still. And basically, he wanted me to prove that I hadn't stolen it from Sainsbury's.
But did he realise that there was a TK Maxx logo? Or
so there's no logo.
It's just the black
it wasn't
tag?
On there, yeah.
Oh.
So I had no idea it was on there because I didn't go off or anything when I left TK Maxx yesterday. Nightmare, mate. Honestly.
So did he confiscate the meal deal?
Yeah, no, he basically took me into this like little side room and made me take off my jacket, empty all my pockets. Oh, mate, nightmare. It's not ideal, but here we are.
So did the belt ever get did he ever figure out, it's because of this?
He figured it out and then still didn't take the tag off for me. He said that I've got to go back to TK Maxx.
Jesus Christ.
So, that was that.
How did that meal deal taste, though? Was it
great.
good? Did it taste better after that?
Cheese ploughman's was on point. Oh, my God. Yeah.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
That's good, that is. Well, I mean, as far as meal deal stories go, that's pretty lethal, to be honest with you. I've never been accused of anything while having a ham sandwich and a Lucozade from Tesco. But,
mate, absolutely.
Nice. Well, I appreciate your efforts coming here.
Thank you, mate. Thank you.
So you've come from Derby. That's obviously where your studio is. So Inka Tattoo.
Inka Tattoos.
How long's that been going on for now?
So Inka Tattoos, it first opened in 2002, and that was across the road from where we are now. And then the studio that we're in now is 2007, and then I started there in 2012. And I think I took over in 2017. So it's been, I think, 21 years. Yeah, that's
of
maths.
Of Inka Tattoo.
Of Inka Tattoos now, mate. Yeah,
that's a nice bit of progression.
Yeah.
So how did you sort of so you was there as resident artist and then became part owner or co-owner?
Yeah, basically, mate. So what happened is I started in 2012, I think it was, and then basically I was working there for a while, developed a really good relationship with the last owner, which was Lee, which I think you've met Lee or
yeah, we spoke.
So we got a really good relationship and stuff, and then eventually Lee came to the conclusion that it was he was just not on it anymore. He was ready to sort of take a step back.
Yeah.
He'd sort of through loads of different reasons wanted to just get away from tattooing and his health and things like that.
Yeah.
So basically decided that we'd do the switch, and I took over 2017, but Lee was sort of still on the directorship. And then basically it was 2019. It was all off, and Lee's moved to Devon.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. Nice.
Seems like going down south is pretty much like a natural progression for anyone who's just, I need a break from this, what I'm doing right now, I'm going down south.
For sure, mate. For sure. Are
you living a good life there now?
He is, yeah. He's loving life, mate. He's bought I think it's 25 acres of just nothing on it.
Nice.
And he's just building a house and just basically... he's sort of semi-retired, which is great for him, mate.
Yeah, that's good.
That's what he needed.
That's good.
Yeah.
So how's obviously it's been a couple of years now, but how's the studio ownership, managing life at the moment like?
It's good. It's good. Yeah, studio's good. It's like going at the moment, thankfully, from strength to strength. Like the Inka is doing like really well, which I'm really happy about. All of the people I've got working there are like awesome, mate. It's such a nice team. And yeah, business has been hard to learn. Like, that's probably been because I love tattooing, and I will always try and like invest in learning more about tattooing. But business is tricky. Like, I think that's something that a lot of maybe people overlook with tattoo parlors, and it can be overlooked. And I've certainly struggled with it over the years, but I feel like as the years go on, I'm gauging more about what's what. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good.
What's sort of like your percentage of? I mean, it's hard to sort of make into like a number, but what would you say your time is spent on business and tattooing? Like,
I'd probably say about 60-40 at the moment, but I do
60-40 business,
60-40 tattooing.
Yeah.
But I do a lot of tattooing, so it's a lot. It's a lot of business. Generally, like I'll sort of work between 6 and 7 days a week tattooing, and then
really,
most weeks, mate. And then it sort of goes from like there. I'll do about maybe 4 or 5 hours through the week extra, like doing some business. I normally sort of take half a day where I'll just do like the business side of things.
Yeah, just try and stay a bit focused and catch up with things.
Yeah, life admin. You know, it's
what's sort of like the. So how many years have you technically been like running the studio for?
So I've been running it for 6 years. So 2017, yeah.
So in those 6 years, compared to this year, well, 2022 and what's that now? 2017. How would you sort of say you compare? Like obviously, like characteristics, personality, attitude towards people and stuff. Oh,
to be fair, mate, like I love people. I love people. I am really a people person.
Yeah.
I try my hardest with people, and I really enjoy interacting with people. So I think I've always been quite okay in that arena. But like the business side of things, I had to sort of really try and hone in on over them years. And I think that's finally coming to a point where I feel quite comfortable with it all. Well, I'm sure something will come along in there, but you know how it is.
There's always a curveball.
There's always a curveball, isn't there?
What specifically do you mean by that? Like managing like the financial side of things, or like the legalities of the studio, insurance, and
the whole shebang, mate. Really. Yeah. But I do love it though. Like it's something that I've grown a passion for. Business is an interesting thing. Like. Because I'm not a natural manager of people.
Yeah.
I'm such an empath, mate. I'm not born to manage people. So, like, for me to learn to manage has been quite difficult.
Yeah.
But I love it now. I do love it now.
Yeah.
And the team I've got are great, and they reciprocate it really well. So
are you a co-owner, or are you literally the sole owner?
The sole owner.
So do you have sort of like an assistant manager to step in when you're not around and stuff, or?
So Paisley.
Yeah.
Paisley is the one, mate.
When she's not taking notes.
When she's not taking notes, she's a legend, mate. Paisley's a legend. She's been at Inka it'll be 9 years this year.
9 years.
9 years, yeah. She's a legend.
Yeah, so she knows the ropes a bit.
Like she knows. We call her the Oracle. Like, that's literally what we call her. She's just
got to live up to that name as well.
Yeah, she knows everything about the studio and how it all works, the protocols, processes.
Yeah.
And also cracking artists, mate.
Yeah, well, got to be in this industry, I suppose. If you're going to be running that side of things, you do kind of, not necessarily, you don't have to, but like it is always like a benefit to have that passion for the artwork as well.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
She's lovely, to be fair. When yourself and Paisley came over last year, like we both said what lovely people they are and everything. And whenever we've had like a phone call from Inka or, for Body Art Academy, and Paisley's been the one on the phone, like lovely to speak to as well. So
thanks, man.
We'll have to get her here at some point.
Yeah, for sure. Get Paisley in the hot chair, mate.
If she's okay with like the video stuff and everything.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
know whether she prefers to just be like the person behind the camera or whatever, but
she'll probably just like float about somewhere. Like she'll love it though.
Yeah. You've been called out, Paisley.
Yeah, absolutely.
As I just mentioned then, Body Art Academy, we'll get onto that at some point, because that's a good conversation to have.
For sure, mate, yeah.
But just kind of like going on from Inka and that side of things, do you sort of have any plans with Inka to expand, make it bigger, or are you literally at the moment just staying where you are and just maintaining the flow? Do you have like a bit of a vision in the next few years? Or?
Yeah, for sure, mate.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking over the basically in 2020, when everything just went crazy, we sort of put our heads together to try and develop like new systems and new protocols, new ways of like working with clientele, and just basically trying to make that customer experience just like try and take it a level up if we could. And we've done that, and it's been really nice. So like because of that, it's sort of allowed for a bit of growth in the company, and like we've been able to, there's 3 resident artists now, including me, and then we've got 3 piercers, 3 resident piercers, and so the plan is to sort of expand again. We would like to take on a few more artists, couple of residents. We'd like to open some guest spots, but we're currently just in this mad renovation process.
I know.
Which is bedlam, mate. And one of the first phases just been completed. It's actually being completed right now as we speak, by my friend who is just doing the final touches.
Does that mean the studio's going to close off a little bit, or? It
has been. So thankfully we've got like 2 entrances to the building. So we've been able to have people come in through like the back door, but it's just like way seedy and not ideal. But the front is like now sorted, so we can open again. So
what, just like expanding some space within the studio? Or?
Yeah, just generating. So we had like loads of like dormant spaces that were quite big spaces, but not being like optimized. So we decided to like build into them actual studios and like sitting areas and basically stuff the body art and like building in like areas that are like properly equipped for people to be able to like learn, basically.
So you've got 3 residents artists and 3 piercers, you say? It's not very often that, it's a good thing really, but like, it's not very often that you actually hear like a 50-50 split of artists and piercers, to be honest. Usually, like from what we see anyway, we kind of have like majority tattooing in the studio, and then there's 1 or 2 piercers. So you got like a good piercing clientele then? We have,
so basically my sister runs a piercing, so she is epic. She's a really good piercer, and she's been piercing I think it was 2017 Hannah started, so she's 6 years in, and she's just generated this really good like clientele. And basically from doing that, I think she sort of had it originally as walk-ins, and then when 2020 came along, we went to book-ins, and then from then it's sort of grown, and then it got a little bit out of hand, so then we had to take another person on, and she's brilliant. Her name's Emma, and then it's grown again, and then basically we decided that we were going to take on another piercer, and her name's Claire, and she's epic as well. But Emma and Claire both trained with us, so we like sort of, we knew they were the people. They were already in studios. They had their own places. Unfortunately, they had to like sort of shut them and things just because of the climate. And then they came back to us, and it's been great, mate. Like they're awesome as well. So
would you be able to guess like a number of how many pierces are done in a week on an average, or is that something that you just cannot?
Lots, mate. There are lots of piercings done. There's probably about, on a good week, there's probably about 100 piercings done. I'd say. Maybe more, maybe 150.
It's a lot of brawn intricate needles.
It's a lot of brawn intricate needles, mate. But it's busy for piercing, mate. It's really good.
What about the tattoo side of things? How much are you sort of like, are you booked up quite far in advance usually, as well as doing the managing and stuff, or do you kind of keep your books very 1 month, 2 months in advance?
So at the moment I'm 19 months booked.
What?
19 months.
Fucking hell.
I know.
Jesus Christ. That's mad, that is.
Which is crazy. So
you know what you're going to be tattooing next October.
It's mad. So basically before lockdown it was 11 months. And then in lockdown we were still taking bookings, people still wanted to book in, so then it sort of carried on. It got a bit busier, but I wasn't completing work, so then it just grew a bit. And then basically with Lee now leaving, a lot of Lee's clientele decided to stay with the studio because this obviously Devon's well far. So like they've stayed with the studio, some of them, and because of that, that's then gone into my books as well.
Right. Okay.
So at the moment, hence the sort of wanting to take on another resident artist, and because there's lots of work for another artist, probably another 2, and basically, mate. So it is crazy at the moment.
So I suppose if you took on another resident, you'd probably be able to shift a little bit of that work and push the clientele in a little bit sooner.
Yeah, for sure.
19 months is a bloody long time, isn't it?
Yeah, and you've really got to be looking at like diehards who want to wait that long. You know what I mean? Like it can be off-putting for clientele. You know, like people are sort of, you know, if I would go to a client, a artist, and if they were waiting 19 months. If I really like their work, I would wait.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But if I didn't know them, have any rapport with them or anything like that, it would sort of, if I could find someone who was equally as good, then I would do that as well.
Yeah, because I mean, as a client, you are, you know, you're not obliged, like, it sounds bad, but you're not obliged to keep going to the same person.
Exactly.
And if you want a tattoo and if you want this something specific and it's like a burning kind of like, I want this now, like suddenly go, October good for you, no problem. 2024.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Honestly,
like what?
Yeah.
That's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's something we're just working on at the moment.
It's a fantastic position to be in, though. To have all that clientele kind of like in a bit of a virtual queue, ready to come in and stuff. Though that's good. That
it's really just trying to find them right artists to come in and sort of work with like the studio. And that's the plan now, mate. That's the next step, I think, for the business.
That sounds really good. That does. In terms of that's the Inka side of things. Now you've kind of got like the Body Art Academy.
Yeah.
So as we mentioned, you and Paisley came over to us last year, and you basically explained what Body Art Academy was. I'll let you do it as well now, but basically, as Star Tattoo, we supply you with all the goods, all the needles, all the equipment, everything we can sort of help you out with. That's what we sort of do. Really, really happy working with you. It sounds like everything's going to plan, doing really well so far.
Legends.
In terms of Body Art Academy, do you want to just give a brief overview then for our listeners of what exactly that is and how it all started?
Absolutely, yeah. So 2012, basically we decided that we were going to start the Body Art Academy. It went through like multiple different like phases and all of these different things, and we've developed it since then. So it'll be 11 years of development nearly. And since that, it's sort of grown, and then we've like shrunk it, and then we've grown, and then we've shrunk it. And then in this sort of past 3 to 4 years, we tried to really go for it. And then basically we started developing the courses, and the courses are now sort of set to take on generally between 3 and 7 students at the facility we've got now. But we tend to sort of just stick it around 4. And we do like weekly courses. Yeah. So like sometimes it depends on like the level of artistry of the like group. And sometimes it'll be like a week, and sometimes it'll be like a 2-week course, but we'll procure the right people together so that we can teach in that group environment. And then the piercing side of things, we teach piercing as well. So that's generally can be taught in sort of a 5 to 6 day period, depending on like sort of access requirements and things like that. Yeah. So yeah, we've been teaching a fair few people over the years.
Now, when you say we, who's in the Body Art Academy team, or is it like the Inka team?
It's basically the Inka team. So everyone who's involved at Inka is involved at the Body Art Academy. Literally every person who works at Inka has come through the Body Art Academy.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so the only person who hasn't is Paisley, but basically Paisley started the year after I started. Yeah. So she's just sort of grown into this managerial position. And Julia, who's one of the artists, she started as an apprentice but came through that same course but in an apprenticeship way. And Jasmine, who's one of the artists, she came through the actual Body Art Academy course. And them two are really good artists. They're finding their feet nicely now in the industry. And all the piercers, they all came through the Body Art Academy. Even Hannah. Hannah came through, so my sister. She did the course with our last piercer who used to teach it, and then went on to learn how to teach it. Did
it start with tattoos and piercing, or was it just tattoos to start with?
It originally started with piercings.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay,
piercings was where it all started at.
Was that from your brain, or?
No, that was actually from Lee's. So Lee and his wife started the Body Art Academy. And I'd sort of just started at Inka then. And I was, how old would I have been then? I'd have been 19. So a while ago. And basically he just was like getting it off the ground at that point.
Yeah, it was still concept stage, really, when you joined then, I presume.
But there was like occasionally someone would come in and do the course, and it was actually Lee's wife at that time who was doing the courses.
Right.
And then, it's like progressed over the years, and loads of different people have taken roles within the company.
Yeah.
But now we've got a really nice team of people working on it. So,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's always someone on the phone ready to sort of help someone out and stuff. There's always someone on the social side. There's always good photos, website. It's all looking good, really. So
thanks, man.
That's really nice to see and hear, to be honest. Question about that, though, in regards to so piercing and the tattooing, and there's particular days for whatever the course is. What's from your experience now doing it for 11 years, you said?
So what the courses?
Yeah.
So 10 years for me.
Have you suddenly kind of like found like a bit of a increase in numbers over the last couple of years?
Yeah, it started to grow, mate.
Yeah. Did it kind of like hit a few interest numbers a lot during lockdown because people were like, I want to start looking at different things in life now? And
absolutely.
Yeah.
We found a massive spike of people sort of realising or sort of assessing their own situations, I think, and were sort of coming to the point where they thought, this is something I've wanted to do.
Yeah.
And this looks like an accessible thing to be able to get me into that. And lots of people went on it. There was a big spike in 2020 and 2021. We were training hundreds of people a year. It was honestly, there were just email after email, and we trained so many piercers. It was mainly piercers, to be honest, that were trained through it. So many piercers wanted to learn how to pierce in 2021.
Yeah.
There was such a massive push for it. And interestingly enough, in Derby, we've got Derby's a bit of a strange place for tattooing and piercing. It's got such a like condensed amount of artists and like studios. There's 42 studios in Derby.
What?
Yeah, and Derby's small, mate.
Wow. What's the rough population?
I don't know. I don't actually know.
Someone Google that for me, please.
Population of Derby. I don't actually know, mate.
42 studios is fucking insane.
And some of them pop up and go down, and like some of them there's fluctuations. In
some of them are probably like single people, or maybe them and an apprentice or something. So
absolutely, but nonetheless,
that's a lot. 42 studios. I'm trying to think of how many there are in Redditch. I mean, what about like, what would you say, Luke? 10, 12 in Redditch studios, if that.
Ooh, if that, no, I think there's less than 10.
Yeah,
crazy.
I mean, that's like 80,000 population. Derby, 250,000, and there's
Yeah.
42
Yeah,
studios.
42 studios, mate. Yeah,
I reckon Derby could be the most tattooed place in the bloody country, then, mate.
So I think off recent polls that I have seen, Derby is third for density of amount of artists.
Yeah.
For the amount of space that is like the net that it covers.
Oh, wow.
In the country after London, and then it's Birmingham. No, actually, it's Manchester.
Yeah.
And then Birmingham.
But their capital, London's a capital city, and Manchester's massive, and that's like a lot of shit goes on in those places. And no offence to Derby, but
it's tiny.
Yeah,
it's got a cathedral, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Compared to London and Manchester, that's mad. That is.
So
tattoo fact of the week. There you go.
There you go.
There's another one.
Nice. So we've seen it massively grow, and Derby has grown, and piercers are everywhere in Derby, and they've really popped up, which is really nice. Like it's like this created good work in the area, so it's great. Yeah, man.
So let's do a bit of role play then. So say, for example, because every now and again at conventions we have the odd one or two people that go, oh, I want to buy a machine, I want to get into tattooing, and it's like, so you don't know what you're buying yet. So like we always sort of like push people on to get trained properly rather than just going, have this.
Yeah, for sure.
So obviously there's a lot of people out there that will just buy any old piece of crap off eBay or whatever, and they'll probably do something wrong, and you've probably heard all this. So let's just pretend I've knocked on the Inka door and I've said, hi there, I'd love to get into tattooing. What happens then? So
basically what we would do is we'd take through almost like a kind of screening process. We'd look at your artwork, go through, take you through almost a development to how we could get you to a point if you weren't ready to go on the course. If you were ready to go on the course, then what we would do is enroll you onto our next availability. The availability sort of run normally either at the moment we're going to be looking at doing them once a month just to get us back into it, see how the new space is going to work properly. But after that we're going to try and do it once every 2 weeks. So what we would do is enroll them on the next course. They'd then come to the course. We'd give them basically all of everything they would need basically to be able to get into the industry. So it would start from sort of health and safety, sterilisation, dermatology, anatomy and physiology, understanding of like skin and preparation, loads of different topics that are sort of almost a little bit overlooked in some apprenticeship situations, that we're trying to sort of blanket information across.
So this is almost before you've even put your hands on a machine.
Absolutely.
You've got to get that.
For sure.
So understanding the importance of everything before you've even practically done anything.
So we really hone in on the sort of before the tattoo. Like the tattoo is unbelievably important. Techniques will always sort of vary with tattoos, and that's what we've sort of found, is that like some people will do this style or some people will do this technique, and they're all absolutely fine. What's really important is what comes before that, and the only thing that sort of is relevant to them techniques is the depth. So like that's important. But after that, what technique you use is also important, but it's not as important as the whole thing that comes before it. And that's what we hone in on. We hone in on like people understanding the ins and outs of what they need to know to be able to actually get into it properly, without causing any damage to people, and to generate like the right connections and things like that, and how to use like dermatology in a functional way, how to use anatomy and physiology in a functional way. The things that are sort of almost a little bit overlooked but are extremely important, we try and hone in on a bit, mate, basically.
So when you say about the screening process, how the hell does that work? Like if I just come to you and say, you know, I've got like an A4, A5 sketch pad or whatever, and I said like I've got like 100 pages of like not amazing, but like good enough for you to go, he's got an interest in artwork. How does the screening process sort of work? So
we always try and look for like a base level of like understanding. So like the first level is of understanding, we sort of go for a contouration, shape, perspective, things like that. Things that are sort of fundamental drawing skills that are really important, that will be incremental with like learning to tattoo properly. Once that person, if they've got that, great, they're cool, they can come on, because we will teach anyone if they're interested. You know, it's super important that it's an accessible thing. But we just want to make sure that when they come on the course, they feel ready for what we're about to sort of like almost give to them, basically. Because there's like painting modules within the course, there's drawing modules within the course, there's sort of Procreate modules within the course.
Oh, of course, the digital side,
So we try and incorporate all of these different arenas of like basically skills to make sure that people feel like they're prepared enough to go into it. And we touch on it, and then they go off and sort of learn. And so once
like a bit of homework, really.
Basically once they've completed the course with us, we give them a post-course development plan. So that post-course development plan, it generally goes on for 6 months. So it's a 6-month development. So some people will be like quicker and they'll complete all that work within 6 months. But most people who are doing this course, they've got a job, they've got families.
It's something on the side of the moment.
For sure. They want to get into it in the right way. So they do this development plan after they've completed the course, have learned all of the applicable information and techniques. And then they go away, they complete the development plan, and in 6 months we review, and they come back, we invite the whole class back, and we do like basically reviews over who's done what, where they could improve, develop techniques, and just help with any questions. And then they go on again if we need more development. Basically we try and give this rolling information stream if people need it. But it's worked. It's done really well. Like people have got into the industry from it, and it's really nice to see, mate. Like
how long is the actual course? Is it literally like a tattoo course and that's it, or is there different levels?
So we're actually in the process of developing levels.
Okay.
But at the moment it's a tattoo course, and depending on the sort of access requirements, it's anywhere between a week and 2 weeks, and that's sort of catered for that group. So we sort of basically develop it based on who's coming into the group and like what level they're at with regards to like artwork and things like that. and yeah, we just sort of go from there, really.
So after that 2 weeks, if you say you're probably the quickest student I've ever... Well, you're the student that's probably got the quickest kind of like pickup of knowledge.
Yeah.
You're doing really well. Obviously, at that point, they wouldn't have been tattooing a client or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's all fake skin.
All fake skin, yeah.
So say if, hello there, I'd like to do this, do the course, 2 weeks go by, and then you say, you've done really well, you've progressed really quick. What happens then? Do you sort of go like, right, cheers?
No, so basically what we'll do is we'll try and get them in touch with like local studios or people that are local to them.
Yeah.
We'll try and use our connections to the best of our abilities to try and get them in touch with people in their local area to see if they can sort of arrange any sort of apprenticeship for them, sort of basically just help them with their portfolios, try and get them into a position where they feel comfortable to go into a studio to
do
ask the question,
an apprenticeship with a mentor, and
for sure, and they've got the foundation knowledge that they need. That's almost like a blanket of information that's given to them that everyone in the industry will know, or should know as such. Do you know what I mean? So we have that, and they then take that away, and they go and work in wherever they get the opportunity to work in. Which is,
I bet it's hard for you to not take everyone on as artists, isn't it? Because you probably build up a lot of good relationships with people. It's
so nice, mate. There's some brilliant people who have come through it, and like some of them are really far away, or they're like not sure where they want to settle and things like that. And it's like, I'd love to have taken them on. Some of them are great, and I've still got plans to sort of have conversations with certain people in the future and sort of see if they want to come back and do some work, and because some of them are fantastic now, mate. They've gone on to become realism artists, and they work in busy studios, big studios, and it's like, it's really nice. Like, it's nice to know.
Do you sort of like have like a random walk in, and not a walk in, I mean like walking, but I mean like, do you ever have like a random kind of like previous a student just walk into the studio and just be like out of nowhere, like, hey,
occasionally
all go in, and
like come in for a cup of tea and sit down. Like, a lot of my students are like, a lot of them are Derby based. There's lots of Derby based students,
I was going to say, I imagine you've got a lot of the local kind of like
so
radius
they float about, obviously, when they're coming past, and a lot of them are already clientele as well. So like, a few of them have been tattooed for years by myself or Lee, or like other artists who have worked in the studio. And like, so we've got a good rapport with these people, and they're really nice, and like, so whenever they're swinging by, they'll always come in, and we might get some fake skin out and like set up a station for them so they can stay for a couple of hours. Do you know what I mean? And just see if there's anything they want to hone in on, to make sure that they're feeling ready.
Where do you sort of normally see people go then? So what happened? Like, I know you said that people obviously, like, you'll try and get them in touch with like studios for a mentor and apprenticeship and all that kind of stuff. But like, where do you generally see them go after that? So they've done the 2-week course. Like, what generally?
Generally speaking, they sort of go on, they get so they have to do a test at the end of the course as well, by the way. So I completely forgot to mention that.
No, we can go, so we'll come back to that question. So you do the course, and then it is like almost like you do like mock test sort of thing, and then you go, right, you're having a proper no help now.
This is your exam. And it covers lots of stuff. Do you want me to go into it?
Go for it,
So basically, the test covers like every single thing that we cover, in essence, but it breaks it down. A lot of it's multiple choice, a lot of it's like scenario based, so you have to then like give a scenario how you would interact with that certain set of like circumstances. And it's quite tricky. Some of it is difficult. We wrote it with like multiple different teachers. We've got lots of teachers in to develop the course, and they wrote this test for us and with us, and it works really well, and it really pinpoints situational things that like might need to be picked up on, and it helps us write the development plans. Basically, there is a pass rate that has to be reached. But you can retake the course; it's not a problem. We can retake the test. Sorry. So
is it like written with questions and then practical stuff as well?
So there is practical. The practical is sort of done by observation, just to see that they're sort of hitting the right techniques, the right depths and things like that. And then generally speaking, it's sort of all about watching people set up and set down. Sort of what an environmental health officer would do.
A lot of the hygiene factors come into
massively,
it.
Mate. The understanding of like hygiene is paramount for us. That's what we really focus the whole course around. Generally speaking, it's about that. We try and make sure that people are studio ready. If they went home and wanted to set up their own home studio, would an EHO pass them? That's my first thought.
Yeah, because although the passion for the idea could be there, it's like, do you understand what you actually have to physically, literally, like, you need the paperwork, you need the insurance.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's what we try and, like, facilitate, basically. We try and make sure that people are ready to do that. So some people will go on and they'll move on to studios, and that's a lot of the time what happens. But then also, equally, sometimes people will just set up something. They'll set up their own, like, little garden place or whatever, the like, sort of things that are always popping up. They'll set up, like, another room in their house, and all legally. We help them get it all set up legally with the local council's environmental health officers. We've got a really good contact in Derby with our environmental health officer. She's fantastic. She's been doing our environmental health at Inka, and we've been working with her for ages, literally the whole time.
Yeah, you need to be friends with those people, really, sometimes.
Absolutely, mate. And she's great. She is really, really awesome person. And so we do a lot with her, and she's got good contacts all around, like, the neighbouring councils and areas. And so any information we've got, we can sort of cherry pick it from her, and we can get that information quite easily. Obviously, a lot of our students are Derby, but generally speaking, if they come from further away, sometimes it's quite hard to get that information without being local.
Absolutely. I mean, to be fair, just even thinking back to the COVID days, like, the amount of people that had, like, different rules, and you have to wear an apron. No, we don't have to do that.
Nuts, mate. Yeah. Absolutely.
I suppose those environmental officers, and what's their actual title?
EHOs, environmental health officers.
Environmental health officers. Sorry. So I suppose a lot of those people do find a lot of benefit from talking to you guys, because we heard stories of people going into studios and they just didn't have a fucking clue what was going on, so they didn't know how to sort of authorise what should and shouldn't be done hygiene wise. So if they know you guys really well on a good personal level, you can teach them a lot.
That's something that happens. Like, it's very much a sort of tit for tat thing with our EHO. She's brilliant. She'll come in, she'll see what new products we've got in the studio, she'll ask us about them, why we're using them. She'll really pick our brains on it. Do you know what I mean? Like, seriously asking questions, and then she'll go from there, do her own research, come back to us with information about them products as well, things that we should look out for, things that are fantastic, so it's a really good relationship. And equally, we'll tell her about new developments within the industry, so she'll work alongside us to try and help with all the other studios and developing protocol and disclaimers and things like that. We do a lot of development of, like, the actual paperwork side of tattooing that goes on behind the scenes. That's all important, that's protective for the artist. And I've seen disclaimers from other places in the past, and they don't protect you at all, and that's super important. But they also, equally, they don't protect the client, and that's also super important. So that's something we work with her on as well. It's great. Like, she's brilliant, mate. Fantastic person.
Yeah. It's always nice to have a good connection with someone like that.
Absolutely, mate. She's been a game changer for us, to be honest, and a game changer for the Body Art Academy.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't remember what we were discussing before we swayed into this now, but I think you was on about, like, obviously post 2-week course, people go off and do this and this and whatever, and then you mentioned the test. So
the test would be done before the course, before they go off for the post development.
So the test goes well.
You've
done a good pass rate. You've done really well. I've got a couple of friends that are actually taking on an apprentice. That sometimes happens, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, there's 42 studios in Derby.
Yeah, it's happening, mate. Yeah, it's always happening. Derby is rife for it. I know Nottingham is also rife for it. Leicester is always. The neighbouring cities of Derby are growing massively. It's crazy, and there's always new industrial units being built, and, like, sort of commercial units being built, and lots of tattoo parlours are popping up everywhere. And it's great, mate. It's really good, and so people it's quite accessible. Like, they can easily get into them facilities now, which is how it should be. For so long, Dan, it's been like like, say for example, my own personal experience, it was almost like you had to kick the door down to get into the industry. It was very much like that. It was hard to get into the industry for me. I know some people it's a breeze, but generally speaking, it isn't always, and it should be. Say you went and did a course in hairdressing, barbering today, and went and did that course for 3 years. You've got that qualification. You know the base foundation knowledge to be able to go into that industry and work in that industry safely and effectively. Yeah. Whereas in tattooing, because there isn't any sort of set structure for people to be able to learn, you could go, I've said this to you before, but you could go to John on South and Sally on North Street, and they'll both teach you in a different way. And they'll teach you different things that they seem or they feel will be important to their personal fundamental values in tattooing. Yes, yeah. But there isn't any blanket information of what
There's no baseline.
No baseline, but there should be. So that's where a course is really important, I think. Yeah. And it's nothing about like, this is my knowledge and this is our knowledge. It's about let's get all the artists on board and develop a really good course that's going to be something that's accessible for people, because it's becoming more accessible. Yeah. But if we're going to make it more accessible, the industry, it needs to be done properly. And the industry needs to be open, but in a professional way. And I think that's what's really important. Yeah.
Have you, in your experience of obviously doing this academy and stuff, have you noticed a few more kind of pop-up schools and all this kind of stuff in the last... Yeah?
Yeah, and especially in the past year. Yeah. Loads in the past year, mate. It's been a big growing thing, which is great, because education's important. Yeah, yeah. And like in this industry, it's sort of, because it's always been a sort of a dark art, it's been kept back, for so long.
Sound of that's a dark art.
It has for so long. Yeah. And I think now with like modern sort of current situations and like the way that people go to a business now and they interact with people within that business. A lot more tattooists are sort of business orientated. Yeah. It's not that backstreet situation anymore. And because of that, the actual industry needs to progress with it, I personally believe. And I think it'll happen in the next sort of 5 to 10 years. It will, because it will have to.
Well, you mean like in the next 5 to 10 years, there'll be like more regulations, more licensing, more kind of strictness. Not strictness, but more... what's the word I'm looking for?
It's sort of regulation. Regulations. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think it's necessary as well, because the sort of in the time that I've been doing it, for example, I've seen terrible things, mate. People have done like atrocities to people's skin.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we've all seen the horror videos, haven't we? Of like, someone's got like a, 2 days after he's been tattooed, and it's got like it's literally a blister, and you're like, who the?
Yeah, how has that happened?
And like, if they knew what they were doing, that would not look like that.
Absolutely. And this is the thing, like, it's the education, the baseline education for health and hygiene, sterilisation, use of skin, working with dermatology, anatomy and physiology. These subjects are unbelievably like misheard. They don't get seen in the industry, but like the people who work in the industry know all about them. So someone coming into the industry, like it's super important that they understand it. Yeah. And if they don't get the right teacher and the right course and the right person who's going to try and lead them into that, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. You end up sort of chasing loose ends because you've not got the baseline. And that's certainly something that happened for me.
It's like they're going to accidentally go into the direction of bad habits, and then they just think of that as, that's just the normal. That's how I got trained, or that's how I saw on YouTube, or
For sure.
So you had like a bit of an awkward learning style to start with, or something.
For sure. When I first started, I was very much like, I started young. I was just turned 15 when I started tattooing.
Yeah. Oh, so this is way pre Inka and pre Lee.
Way pre. And I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about how tattooing worked. I didn't really know anything. I had a vague understanding, but nowhere near what it should have been. And it made, like, from my perspective now, it's made me realise absolutely how important it is to get into these good habits from early on, and the best time to learn them things is at the beginning.
Yeah, when you're like a sponge, basically.
Yeah, because you're going to be taking it all in instead of being 4 or 5 years in and then having to relearn everything that you thought was right. And some people aren't capable of doing that. Yeah, and that's then becomes a bigger issue. And before you know it, you've got people doing things wrong on people, and the actual processes aren't correct. Whereas if you're doing all of the right things, that will always be fine. 99.999% of the time. So, it's so important.
Imagine what a tattoo course would look. Just hypothetically, imagine a tattoo course. I'm sure there must have been something like that out there, but I always see these old BBC archive clips now of tattooing and stuff. Yeah, we've all seen it when he's got a fag in his mouth, there's a half can of beer, and he's got no gloves on. Can you imagine how simple a tattoo course would have been back then?
Crazy, mate.
Yeah.
So, for example, this is absolute madness. I've got a crazy story for you.
Brilliant. Right? Okay.
So, one of my friends who I used to work with, he used to work in a studio, and it was quite a rough studio. And basically, the guy who owned and worked in this studio used to basically have a cigarette on while he was tattooing. And
how long ago is this?
This was in the 80s.
Okay.
Right.
Which
is mad. Pre-19, I think it's pre-1993 or 1994, you had an enormous chance of catching a bloodborne pathogen from a tattoo. Yeah. It was shocking, mate. Basically, he was in this studio. This guy had a cigarette on, a bacon sandwich on his station. Right?
On the station?
On the station, Dan.
Just next to the ink pot, it's fine.
And my man, when he'd finished his day, would pot his needles in a bottle of isopropyl alcohol outside, right, and use them the next day.
Oh my God.
No joke. That was a thing that happened. Can you, that's just baffling to me.
I want to see what those tattoos look like now.
Mate, I wouldn't even be surprised these people are alive still. Do you know what I mean? So
that's awful, that is. That's honestly, that's terrible, that.
And that was, I don't know, obviously this was just one set of circumstances, but you hear this, that's a horror story.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't think that will be a singular story.
Can you imagine if you saw someone doing something like a small % of that with their cartridge needle today?
You'd be like, what are you doing? But yeah, this was something that happened in a studio, and that was a professional facility in inverted commas in them days. Yeah. And this is pre-education. Do you know what I mean? This person, okay, maybe to blame, and Mio, you could blame them from this perspective that we are now, but was
there anything there for him or her to sort of go, oh, that's how you meant to do it?
Exactly, mate.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And there'll always be different variables of what we see as is right, and at the moment there'll always be something that we could improve on. Yeah. And that's the whole point of trying to get that baseline in. It's so important. I can't say it enough. Really.
I mean, there's the education side of tattooing and how the practice works of puncturing the skin, bloodborne pathogens, all that kind of stuff. But then there's also just, as you said, there's always improvements. There's always something coming around the corner to sort of help something go further, help it get better, more efficiency, more effectiveness, all of that. And being on this side of the industry, I hate calling it an industry, but lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Being on this side of the industry, we see so much new stuff coming out.
Yeah.
It's incredible how quick, even in my 5 years being in the supply side of things now, how much has changed.
Yeah, absolutely, mate.
But it's not even just small things like the machine going wireless. It's literally all this background stuff, how studios work, what you're meant to do. How the reach compliancy, all of that, it's just gone crazy recently. So I think you've probably seen it from a teaching perspective. You've probably thought to yourself, shit, we need to reevaluate now, and now this has happened, this.
Yeah, there's so much more to teach every year. It changes, the curriculum has to develop with the current affairs. Everything it's such an evolving industry, for want of a better term. But it's an evolving industry. It's at a point where it's the industry is just going to keep on developing now. It's what I think they call it saturation point in business, and it's at that point where it's at a tipping point where it either sort of stays where it is, or it just goes and develops, and it's
Yeah.
just gonna develop.
Well, I mean, you think about think of the last 10 years compared to the 10 years previous to that.
Yeah.
How many people on the television, I say television now, it's like the phone.
Yeah.
Like, how
Yeah.
many people
Yeah.
are in the limelight and don't have a tattoo?
No, it's mad, isn't it?
It's, you know what I mean? Like, footballers, they're very notorious for getting tattooed, like full of black and grey sleeves and all that kind of stuff. But then you've also got musicians, you've got movie stars, you've got just personalities, influencers, YouTube. Like, it's just ridiculous, and it just doesn't stop. So if you think of that mentality, when these people that are like our age, for example, when we're 60, 70, 80, 90, do you think it's just going to be a continuous...
I think so. I think, the stigmas that have been held for so many years in the industry, say, for example, go back 20 years, me or you go to the studio and go and get a hand tattoo. There's judgment. There's massive judgment.
Yeah.
Nowadays, there is still a small morsel of judgment there, but
it's much more accepted.
It's much more accepted.
Yeah.
Much more accepted. People, like, big corporate industries are developing protocol around the development of this industry, which is like the police, the army, nurse, like NHS. All of these big corporate industries are accepting of these things now. So you go back 20 years and say, for example, like my grandparents' era of people, their perception is only based on what's been sort of
what they
grew up with.
And what they
absolutely.
thought of as normal and stuff.
And now things have changed so much. It's just everyone can get one. There's no limitations. Like, for example, one of my oldest clients, right, started getting tattoos when he was 90. And he was 90? 90.
Oh, wow.
And he's 95 now.
So in 5 years, how much have you done on him?
I've done him a full sleeve. No joke.
Oh, yes.
I have.
We need to see pictures.
He's incredible.
When we've done this, we'll have a look and we'll pop it up on when you talk about this.
Yeah, he's amazing, mate.
Yeah.
He's ex-military. Such an awesome person, and imagine the stories, like, spending a sleeve's worth of time with him as well.
Please tell me he's gone like pure tattooing.
Well, he's got all of his badges tattooed on his arms, but as embroideries. So
that's brilliant.
He's got all of his, he's got loads of badges.
Yeah.
And they're all embroideries on the little...
So what, has he got he's got them on his chest, you mean?
No, all of his arm.
Oh, so he's only got his, like...
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And, he's cool. He is a cool guy.
What's his name?
David.
Shout out to David.
Big up David,
yeah,
man.
Yeah.
Like, if he's watching Inkcast,
that's
big up
nuts.
David.
I've never heard of a 90-year-old starting to get tattooed then. Was that like a bit of a, not awkward, but was you a little bit like, okay, the skin could be a little bit like...
I was very tentative at first. When he came in, I was a little bit like, this might not be something that is possible. His skin is fantastic.
Yeah.
This guy's looked after himself. My man has ate healthy.
Whatever skincare routine he has, he needs to be sponsored by Dove or something, like L'Oreal.
Absolutely. Honestly, he's amazing, mate. And he's got loads of tattoos. He's covered in tattoos. And the reason why I brought him up is because when he first wanted tattoos, he couldn't have tattoos.
And why was that?
Because he was in the military, and because he was quite high up in the military, he was never allowed to have these tattoos. All of his friends who were also Navy were covered. You think you go back to sort of the 30s and 40s. Yeah. Sailors, lots of tattoos, covered in them. They get in their nautical stars. They get in all of this cool stuff.
The traditional heart with the banner through it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
David wanted them, right, but he couldn't have them. And then basically what happened is, as he got older, he sort of gained this, like, almost, this is his words, not mine, gained this resentment for not being able to have them, which I think is quite a commonplace thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Doubled down on the fact that he couldn't, right? And then basically, sadly, someone in his family passed away, and then, like, he wanted to sort of get it. He just wanted to get some because, he's 90, he just wanted to do it, experience it.
Yeah, yeah.
And
the no regrets at your deathbed sort of thing.
Absolutely, mate. Like, what have you got to lose? Go for it.
Go for it,
It turns out he's like 95 and thriving, mate. And, basically, he just decided that he was going to come in and speak to us about it, and he came in and did it. And now he loves it.
what was his like? So what was his actual? Has he literally got like this, like a full complete sleeve, or is it just
like
patches?
Patches, yeah. So like it, but it's the full length of his arm.
How did you find the pain and stuff? Did you use any sort of numbing?
No, he's hard as nails, mate.
Yeah, I was going to say, if he had numbing, I'd be thinking, like, is that military blood still in there?
Yeah, like, no, he's real OG, mate. He's hard as nails.
Awesome,
yeah.
Honestly, I'd love to see that sleeve at any point.
Yeah,
like,
mate.
If
I'll see if
we come to visit you guys and he's popping around. Is he based around you? Or?
He is, and you know what, mate?
That'd be brilliant to see that.
This is a really nice story. Every single year, David, for Christmas, comes and brings us like this big bottle, like the big bags of like 6 bottles of wine.
Oh.
And he doesn't drive anymore, so he walks from the other side. He's healthy, mate. This guy's healthy.
He sounds it. Yeah.
He walks from the other side of town with this bag of wines and a card and like chocolates for us all, and just comes in and has a cup of tea, mate.
Legend.
The guy is a legend. Like, he's just, you know,
big
salt of the earth. Yeah,
absolute shout out.
Big
to
up, Dave. Yeah.
Imagine that though. Your granddad is just like, oh, guess what I've done on the weekend?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Oh, here we go. One of his stories. And he just pulls out like a sleeve. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, mate. This guy's got stories as well, mate. Honestly, like.
Have you tattooed him the whole time there, or has he always used?
Yeah.
So I bet
always.
you've heard a few stories then.
Absolutely, mate. This guy is.
God, we need David on Inka. Oh, we need to do like a pop-up Inkcast at Inka.
Absolutely, mate. Get it down there and we'll get David.
That is awesome.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
How was his healing and stuff? Was it like just exactly as normal as anyone else's? Or?
Fantastic, mate. Yeah, I'm going to do some product endorsement, right? We use Derma.
Yeah.
We use Skinworks. That stuff, he loves it.
Yeah.
Derma has always been the one.
So, just to clarify, obviously, because we are doing a product plug now, like unlike planned.
Unplanned. Am I allowed to do that?
You can do whatever you
want.
want.
Okay. Sorry, I just thought.
This is Incast, and it's located at Star Tattoo, and we sell those things. So yeah,
brilliant.
Derma that you're on about is the second skin from Electrum Supply,
which is excellent.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the Skinworks is a whole brand on its own, and we actually
have a box here.
As I said, this is a completely unplanned conversation we're having, Ben.
Yeah.
So. But no, I mean, yeah, you've used Skinworks on him, and
yes.
obviously that was the the tattoo assist, and then you gave him some of the spray aftercare.
People are loving this stuff, mate.
Yeah.
It is so good, and so surgeons use it instead of that now. They use it in them environments, and it's brilliant.
Yeah.
So in a tattoo environment, you'll put it onto the skin, it soaks, and then basically you've destroyed any microbiome.
And when I started, and obviously using that again, I'd use it like 2-3 times a day for about 4 or 5 days, and I was like, fuck, I literally feel like I'm already gone past
settled.
All those stages already of like, you know, the initial kind of like, it's still raw, red, then it's a bit swollen, then you start getting a bit like, you don't get the itchy side from what I found personally to start with. You kind of get the flakiness a little bit, and then the kind of like, that used to be for me about a week and a half, really.
Yeah.
But now it's like half that time, just using that. And I've got to be honest, like, although we sell it at Star, if I didn't work at Star, I would constantly keep telling people about that.
Yeah. Honestly, when I first interacted with Rich, basically, one of the piercing artists at Inka, her name's Emma, she's brilliant, very clued up around sort of microbiology, lots of different areas of medical areas. You know, she's very smart. And basically, she came to me one day and she was like, Ben, have you heard about this? Like, this is a new product. And she was getting tattooed by someone who Rich knew personally. And so basically, comes into the studio, Emma's got some, and we started talking about it, and then basically I messaged Rich and I sort of just sent him a sort of introductory message and just sort of said I'd really like his product, I think it's brilliant. I'd love to meet him and actually go through what it is and learn a little bit more, because I had some questions about the ingredients. And basically he came down, cracking guy, you know, Rich, but he's cracking bloke. And so we got chatting, and from there, we've just generated a quite good friendship. And I knew the moment they had explained it, how impressive it was. You know. And when I then stopped, because I'd used it on myself in the interim between him coming, and I was like, wow, this stuff's amazing. And I'd done a tattoo on my sister in that period as well, and she was using it too. and it was just healing. Everything was healing so dark and vivid, and
Yeah.
like it was just sealing. Everything was just sealing. It just seals the wound, and it just makes it just stay.
Yeah.
There's no chance for granulation. The skin doesn't allow it to actually generate them scabs properly.
Yeah.
So it just goes in. It stays there. Used in conjunction, just to add this in, used in conjunction with derma, game changer, mate.
Yeah.
Game changer.
Yeah.
Like,
We've had a lot of good comments about derma as well.
yeah. Derma on first, then, you know, once
how long for the first night? 1 day, 2 days?
2 days.
2
I always
days.
recommend 2 days from my clientele. But I know that there's some of them products you can actually leave on for 5. I know that each individual.
Yeah, you get that ink sac after a while. It's just like a.
It was like a blob. Yeah, yeah, it would make that.
And you're
gross.
so tempted to just go.
Oh,
poke.
little pin like way. But I know some people don't recommend that. But as long as the environment that you've put it on, under it is sterilised, which it will be if you've been using all the right products.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're going to be fine. So generally speaking, with new clientele, it'll be 2 days. But with like sort of experienced clientele, I'll normally say leave it on between 3 to 5 days. And yeah, basically used in conjunction with that afterwards, and all of the applicable like creams.
I think you need to go through as an artist and as well, also as a client as well. Like obviously, if you've got the luxury of trying the different things and options and stuff, it is really nice to just sort of go through everything and just see what your body prefers to have as an aftercare and what you prefer to recommend to people. Because I mean, I've used bloody everything from creams to sprays to butters to pads to second skins. And I got to be honest, like there are a couple of them that are my favourites, but at the same time, everyone's body's different.
Yeah, for sure.
Like the tattoo armour pads, like I used those for a while for the big pieces, like the massive piece that I had done here or something, I used that. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Whereas for something small like this or whatever, bit of second skin, like a small patch, that would actually be a bit more accessible. So I think there's always going to be an option that you can take with your aftercare process. The right products are becoming way more focused on now in the industry, which is good.
Absolutely. And if the thing is, with regards to like the products, it's like, I think it's so important that like the information that's given to people for the right products doesn't come from like, from an artist perspective, from their own personal like sort of experiences.
Yeah.
Because the aftercare is sort of universal. There's a universal part to it, but then like using the right products throughout it, and everyone's body's different, but it's that baseline of information that comes with like a new client that's so important. I try and make that as streamlined as it can be, so that people aren't sort of, oh yeah, well I'll go and dip into this or I'll dip into that, and before you know it, they've used about 10 different products on one tattoo, and it's all in a week's period. And because that does happen, you know, so it's important.
Trigger happy.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. They've bought
new
about
stuff.
Absolutely 20 different aftercares, 20 different products.
I bet that's how you felt. I remember, last year when you turned up and we gave you a goodie bag each,
and
you were like, "Oh my god, what's
brilliant!"
This stuff?
Honestly, it was so
That's
good.
when you first tried derma, you know.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So
what full circle conversation now? Because you told us about reach and skin, whereas we gave you derma, and now look what we're talking about.
Yeah, mate. Game changer.
Yeah, that's how it happens, man.
It is, and here we are.
We're talking a lot of fun stuff and whatever. Covered a lot of basis on Body Art Academy, Inka, Skinworks. But your side personally, where do you? I mean, you tattoo bloody all sorts, really, don't you? You've done realism, you've done all sorts. But where do you sort of like have like a passion towards the artwork and tattoo side? Is it a particular area, or do you like just having a full range of everything?
I was talking to Connor about this earlier. I find that I sort of haven't honed in on one yet. Like
after all these years,
I know, man. Do you know what I mean? Like I like doing everything, and I've got such a diverse clientele that come with such a range of different styles, all the way from very, very simplistic to hyper-realism. And it's like I try and take my hand to as much of them as I can. Most of them I try to do, and I'm kind of like, you know, jack of all trades, master of none a little bit at the moment. But I'd very much like to hone in on like something eventually. Like, so I'm very much a realism artist like that. I'm a painter by like sort of trade. Like if I was to sort of say to someone what I am, I'm a painter, and then I'm a tattooist, because I do a lot of tattooing and I do a lot of drawing and stuff. But painting is the passion. That's my passion. And like I'll paint at night. I'll paint in like my spare 10 minutes. I've always got an easel on the go.
Yeah.
And for me, like that's where I like find my most comfortability. So like as the years have gone on, I've sort of felt like I need to lean into more of that style.
Yes. Yeah.
And I really enjoy that sort of stuff as well. You know, if someone comes in and they've got like a rough idea based around like, I don't know, a landscape or a person or something like that. I like to almost make it look more like a broad stroke image instead of a hyperrealism portrait. Unless they want the hyperrealism portrait, which I'm happy to do. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, if it was sort of on my terms, which it very much isn't, and I'm happy with that. The client will get what they want at the end of the day, and I'll make sure that that's right. But if it was to sort of things that I was designing as concepts and stuff, it would very much be painting orientated. There's a few concepts that I've been working on recently that are things that I'm yet to release, but come from like I have a love for photography. And I'm a technophobe. I don't know if you know this, but I am. And
well, we did mention the camera situation just pre-recording anyway, so I can see a little bit out of it.
Honestly, I'm terrible with like technology. I've learned how to use Procreate, but that's it on my iPad. Yeah, like that's the level I'm at.
But
right.
Cameras are your thing as well.
Cameras, but film cameras.
Okay.
And I do a lot of like old film camera work with a Pentax.
Yeah.
And like. My favourite thing to do is to sort of do triple exposures. So I'll do like, say, for example, a photo and then I'll leave it to go exposed again and then I'll do another photo on that.
Yeah.
And then I'll take a photo of something completely different and see how it merges and then in the Lightroom see how it comes out.
Oh, okay.
And I did one of them a few years ago and it was sort of 2 photos of a friend and then basically I took a photo of a leaf and didn't realise I'd still got it on the same exposure, on the same... basically.
So it was an accident.
Yeah. And the leaf almost X-rayed onto the face.
Oh, nice.
And so all of these concepts that I've been doing are based off of this triple exposure thing that I did a few years ago by accident. And like now all of my like sort of things that I'm looking to do, I'm going to start putting them out for people to hopefully take on in the next few years or
That's awesome,
in the next year. Yeah. Or 19 months.
So, so overall for Ben, so Body Art Academy, you're training people how to tattoo properly.
Yeah.
You're an artist yourself.
Yeah.
6-7 days a week, you say. Then you've also got the managing of Inka Tattoo Studio.
Yeah.
Then you also love painting.
I do.
Then you also love doing photography and exposure. What else is there, or is that everything in your life? Is there room for anything else?
You know what, mate? I do a lot of exercise. I like to exercise. I like to do a lot of like sort of different. Like, I'm a big climber. Climbing's my thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's my relaxed time. I go to the gym in the morning and possibly climb at night, especially in the summer. And to be honest, there's not a lot of room for a lot else.
Yeah.
But basically, mate, just try and keep myself maintained as well as doing all of the other stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I don't think there'd ever be a time if I text or rang you and said, what are you up to? Nothing much.
Yeah, mate, honestly.
I don't think you'd ever be able to say that, would you?
You know, for me, like, I have, because generally now I have Sundays off, which is like a rarity for me because I never used to.
Yeah.
And like, I'm back like walking, but for me, I cannot do nothing.
Yeah.
When I wake up in the morning, every morning I wake up at 5:30. That's just like, I don't have to put an alarm on. I wake up at 5:30.
Your brain's like, do something.
Right, get up. And then I just get going. And that's generally what I've been like for 10 years, to be honest.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've sort of just got into the swing of it now.
Yeah. Well, you've got yourself in many places.
Thanks, man.
And I think that is obviously, like, you do need that kind of like driving mentality to sort of like just go, it's not like an erratic like, this year I'm going to suddenly start doing this, or like you've progressed in a tattoo career, you've progressed in an artistic career, but then also on the business side you've kind of been thrown in the deep end at a relatively young age, really.
Yeah.
To suddenly go, here's a business. Also, here's all the control. Also, here's all the team that you're managing. Also, here's all the clientele. That's a lot to suddenly throw in. So
I was 22 when that happened, Dan.
God damn.
Yeah, I know, man.
And how old are you now, sorry?
29.
29.
Yeah, so
30's coming.
30 is coming.
And
how old are you?
Huh?
How old are you?
28 in a month's time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I don't do half as much as you.
Yeah, this is why I look 40, mate. And you don't.
Shave the beard off.
Yeah.
There's actually like loads of like stress. Just
Honestly,
everywhere.
it's
Like,
crazy.
oh, God.
It's just all wrinkled under here.
Yeah.
So
Well, we're always going to be talking to each other anyway.
for sure, mate.
But it was very nice to have a lovely, pleasant conversation with you, Ben. So thank you very much for coming once again.
Legend, bro. Thank
Looking
you so
forward
much for
to
having me.
seeing everything that happens in the future with Inka and body art, and also with descriptions and all that. We'll make sure people can see everything and find access to body art and stuff. But
Brilliant.
thank you very much for coming.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me. Cheers.